Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. This is Luke Rudowski of We Are Change, joined with Tim Pichette, the Liberty Advisor, where, of course, we're going to be giving you all the latest updates, social, politically, and economically, happening right now, March 28, 2020. And, oh boy, there's a lot of news, a lot of new cases, a lot of extreme circumstances and extreme measures being implemented right now. Now, if you remember, 1 week ago exactly, New York Magazine ran a piece titled, quote, "Trump refused to order coronavirus supplies because big business complained." Well, Donald Trump has made a complete 180-degree turn on this, and he right now, as of moments ago, is ordering General Motors to make ventilators under the Defense Production Act, which has been activated and allows the federal government to take control of private business. Other states and jurisdictions are taking matters into their own hands, including
it's like we will never be a socialist nation. We are switching straight over to fascism. So
yeah. I remember the day where socialism was always the big buzzword around right-wing circles. And now it's the new norm. It's like, oh yeah, a little temporary UBI, a little temporary handout for everyone. Let's help out all the mega banks and corporations on Wall Street. Just absolute insanity. A lot of changes happening very quickly.
And now let's kick Thomas Massie out of the Republican Party. I mean, the Republican Party, there's nothing conservative about the Republican Party. I used to be part of the Republican Party until I realized that they're basically like Communist Party light. And then you've got, obviously the Democrat, the fake liberals over there are the full-on Communist Party. So two bad choices that we have to choose between, unfortunately.
Well, they're a different wing of the same corrupt crack whore bird that right now is implementing a lot of just crazy policies. But of course, everyone's trying to get a handle on this. We're seeing a lot of major decisions, a lot of major moves changed. We're trying to see some government officials tackle this. Some of them are doing it very effectively. Some are doing it very ineffectively. There's a lot of disinformation, a lot of propaganda, including from the media, and just regurgitating everything that the government is saying about masks. There's a lot of disinformation about masks. I went into full detail about that on any chance I get. And I showed the data on my main channel about that specific aspect. Masks do work. You can make them at home. They do make a significant difference. And I could keep talking about this for hours, but let's just continue on to some of the other actions that are being taken by other jurisdictions all across the United States, like in Los Angeles, that promised to shut off water and power to all non-essential businesses that they deem non-essential, especially if they refuse to close. That's one way. Other companies are taking matters into their own hands, including Elon Musk, who is using SpaceX to start manufacturing hand sanitizer. That's a good sign to see private business on their own volition take charge in step of the situation and actually help out as much as they can by providing essentially important tools to deal with, of course, this crazy sickness that's going on there. Other major moves made by Donald Trump was also the fact that he allowed the Pentagon to now call back reservists and retirees. Now, as the number of troops increases on the streets all throughout the United States, we could also definitely understand that a lot of them will become infected with the sickness, especially in Rhode Island, where they are going door to door hunting down New Yorkers. Yes, I mean, to me, this plan is a little bit foolish. We need a lot of education. We need a lot of information. But to have soldiers go door to door, make contact with as many individuals as they can, have police officers and soldiers set up roadblocks and stop other people, make contact with them, and then go to sleep in close quarters in small buildings with other soldiers. It's a recipe for disaster. And also one of the reasons why the U.S. military recently announced that they will stop reporting the number of people who have this sickness that are in the U.S. military, as we're getting other information.
It's like when they stopped reporting all the drone strikes, and then it actually was a conspiracy theory that there even was a drone program until like 2011 or 12, and that's when they finally admitted there even was this drone program. But imagine if this was going on underneath Obama. I'm out here in Arizona. Every time I want to drive to San Diego, I've got to go through internal checkpoints. And I mean, I've had a gun pointed at my face for refusing to, answer this. And this is, but you've got all the
before this whole crisis, right?
This is like probably 2012. I refused to answer if I was an American citizen because, like, even if I was an illegal alien, you guys, Obama was just, the head of DHS at the time said that they were helping completing the smuggling process. So it was not about trying to catch illegal aliens. It was about trying to keep all of the, the tax slaves in line so that way they can eventually roll something like this out and see who would put up with it. Now, it's gotten a lot better where they don't really do that as much out here because enough people like me were pushing back on it. But, we're talking an M4 to my face. Now they let me go like about 5 seconds after that. But, this is, if you want, the amount of tyranny you get is the amount of tyranny you're willing to put up with. And unfortunately, we've got a lot of sheep and they're willing to put up with a lot of tyranny and just look at, but, it's Republican tyranny this time. So, it's all good. Apparently, Luke.
Yeah, well, my opinion is always take this seriously. If you look at how troops have been utilized by other countries, specifically in Italy, they're dealing with situations where they set up makeshift hospitals and also deal with a lot of the people that have passed away because of this sickness, and they're using their kind of facility to do that. In the United States,
well, and they know something about fascism over there in Italy, so I mean, just taking a page from their playbook.
But yet again, we have to understand this sickness doesn't discriminate whether you're in authority or not in authority, and especially if they're running around all around town making contact with individuals, they're going to get sick. And already we're getting reports that 2 U.S. aircraft carriers in the Pacific have been completely taken out of action because soldiers have tested positive for this latest sickness on there. This, of course, is giving China what people are calling a free hand to the region, a region that's very contested, a region that has seen very aggressive saber-rattling moves between China and the United States made, and it's allowing China to now flex its total military muscle, as many people warned that we could potentially be on the brink of war. I talked about that again on the main channel, so I don't want to talk about that too much. But again, the military is taking this seriously. Weeks ago, on my main YouTube channel, I've been reporting that the U.S. military is preparing for continuity of government. Now we're getting more information about that as a U.S. military command is literally sealing themselves off inside of a bunker in Colorado, in the mountains, and will only come out when this latest sickness somehow ends or stops being as aggressive as it is, infecting as many people as it is right now. So a lot of information coming out, and the military is taking this seriously, which is one of the signs we've been telling people to take it seriously weeks ago. But really, a lot of attention has been on China. A lot of idiotic attention has been on China with stupid conversations about whether we should call this the Wuhan virus or not. Again, that's a whole huge diversion away from actually what's happening and from actually dealing with the problem and situation right in front of us. But again, one thing we have to understand about China is that this could have all been prevented if China would have taken this seriously and addressed it seriously in a way that could have prevented the spread of this. China knew this was happening in late of last year, and what did they decide to do? Well, they first made sure that their military troops were quarantined away from the general public so their guys with arms could be ready to, of course, implement a lot of the bigger draconian measures that were implemented there. People being barricaded into their own homes, dying without, lack of resources, journalists, doctors being arrested for telling the world that this was happening. And the only reason the world and everybody else knew something major was happening is because of the brave individuals that took risks, that took a chance and got out information outside of the controlled Chinese censorship area, and they were able to warn the world that this was happening. Meanwhile, China lied through their teeth about it.
And meanwhile, those people who did risk their life, and a lot of them whisked away or disappeared, or they acted like, oh, we never tried to suppress that type of information. And then, a little bit going back to the last story, I also read another story recently that it was costing the Navy about $400,000 per flush is what it ended up working out, the math on that, because apparently after they flushed it so many times, you got to go through this whole like big acid wash thing or whatever. But but apparently there's a whole fleet of ships that can't even run right now because of toilets. But it was all based upon how that they were initially designed and developed. So I'm sure, whoever that was, I'm not sure which defense contractor it was, whether it's Northrop Grumman or, I don't know if Boeing does ships or whoever, but I'm sure they're going to be getting a big bailout to get, fix those problems as well. But, I guess it's a crappy problem to have that, if you're a sailor on the seas, you can't be using ships. And if you're a Chinese, and trying to get this real information out, then you're going to be suppressed. And it's just, all this. And that's also assuming that this wasn't a bioweapon to begin with. And I know you've been reporting and not necessarily, you're not making any wild accusations, but just off of, I'm so skeptical whether or not this was a bioweapon. It seems very, convenient that all of a sudden, as all this is going down with protests all around the world, especially in Asia, that, this is a pretty good way to clear people off the streets, a pretty good way to, get people off, the mind off of, trade wars and just look at all the draconian things that have been going on, not only in America, but just, all over the world. This is basically a free pass for the globalists to, bring in whatever tyranny. And I think it's a trial run, Luke, to see what people will put up with, because that's the tyranny you get. You get the exact amount of tyranny is what you are willing to put up with. And unfortunately, we're willing to put up with a lot, it seems.
Yeah. China's involvement here should be definitely questioned since again, a lot of the actions that they took made this situation that much worse. Also, on the other hand, actions by the United States that saw this coming, didn't act properly, also should have some burden, some responsibility, and some criticism thrown their way. It looks like a lot of officials are taking it seriously, some more seriously than others, but the fact still lies that China lied. And it's astonishing to see people even being afraid to admit that fact, that China plays an extremely big role in the spread of this virus, and that they're not only lied, but they're continuing to lie, as there's new photos emerging of thousands of urns of where Chinese people put the ashes of their loved ones in on social media, erupting everywhere, which of course directly questions the accuracy of the numbers that they're giving. And the numbers that they're giving are absolutely ridiculous. The official story in China now is that they completely destroyed this virus, even though there's massive areas still quarantined, even though they had to still close down their theaters again. And the official story is that, the line just flatlined. And the only new cases are the cases that are coming in from outside. And that's just completely unbelievable. Defies the laws of basic physics, of basic science, of basic math, of basic any common sense. And they're trying to tell us that, yes, we're back in production, we're doing well. And there should be a lot of criticism and skepticism on, of course, the central planners, the central controllers. And I think if you look at China, when you really see them as the kind of central planners that they are, you really see how horrible of a system it is because of this situation that has been made that much worse by their idiotic, stupid actions. Let's just call it what it is. We're also getting conflicting stories about their patient zero, which originally was a gentleman that had no connection with Bat Soup, no connection with that wet market, that was told to go home, flew to another province. That was patient zero. We're not getting conflicting information that patient zero may be another person, a possible shrimp vendor in that wet market. But again, a lot is still unknown. There is only one level 4 weapons biolab facility in all of China, and it is also in Wuhan, where this virus came from. I'm just saying we should know about that. And